From KGW, this is The Good Stuff.
And I think that Portland, more than any other city in the U.S., is poised to become kind of that European-style track city.
The 2024 Paris Olympics are just 184 days away here on KGW and NBC. And one of the Summer Games' marquee events is the marathon, with several local runners about to compete for a chance to wave the red, white, and blue in the City of Lights. Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Folkers, and welcome to The Good Stuff. The journey to Paris runs through downtown Orlando. They'll host the marathon trials February 3rd. That's just a week from Saturday. There will be blood, sweat, and tears, but this week in Portland, there was beer. Catherine Cook has our story.
At Great Notion Brewing in Northwest Portland, you might call this carbo loading before the big race. And we mean big.
The U.S. Olympic Marathon Trials.
Elite runners like Jesse Joseph are heading to Orlando for the trials February 3rd. He's one of 15 Portland runners to qualify. They'll run 26.2 miles with the dream of doing it again in Paris.
Realistically, I am not going to make the Olympic team because, there's the front of the race will be like 8 minutes faster than my PR. But having enough people able to compete at a high level really draws the attention to the sport that I think it needs.
And that's part of why they're here tonight, celebrating a sport that many feel doesn't get the traction it deserves.
And I think that Portland, more than any other city in the U.S., is poised to become kind of that European-style track city that you see, where people just go crazy for track.
Jeff Merrill is president of Portland Track. The nonprofit organizes everything from professional meets down to community events.
Our goal is to elevate running in the community, but also use running to elevate the community too, and kind of bind everybody together.
Another way Merrill does that is by live streaming events like this one, part of a monthly Portland Track brewery tour. Local runners gather to hear from the top in their field and those who might just like to jog. Sending off 15 Olympic hopefuls like Caitlin Peel makes this night extra special.
I mean, it's an awesome experience. I never thought that I would be here, so it's just a really cool and fun thing to be a part of. It's really fun to just celebrate that with the people who care.
Let the race before the games begin. Catherine Cook, KGW News.
Oh, cannot wait for that. Olympics, so exciting. Well, hey, a big congratulations is in order for Oregon's new kid governor. Meet Zoya Shaw. Yeah, she was sworn in today at a ceremony at the state capitol, hosted by Oregon's Deputy Secretary of State. Fifth graders throughout Oregon are able to run for kid governor, and they're elected by their peers. Zoya's platform is based on creating mental health awareness and acceptance for kids based on her own experience.
When my anxiety started a few years ago, I didn't know what was happening to me. But my parents helped me identify it, and then I knew that what I was feeling had a name. And just like me, a lot of other kids may not be aware too. So I feel it is important to create awareness because there are still people out there who think it's ridiculous that a kid could have anxiety or depression, and some people also feel embarrassed to talk about their feelings. The only way to solve a problem is to first acknowledge that we have one.
Gosh, as somebody who has dealt with their own mental health struggles, Zoya, you are a hero to me. Now, Zoya says that she hopes to achieve that using a 3-point plan of action that she calls CIA, creating awareness, identifying triggers, and act to provide support and tools to cope. She's calling on all Oregonians to step up and help.
Though as a kid, I may not have all the answers, but I'm willing to learn. So I turn to all of you today to seek your help and guidance throughout my term so we can best help the kids of Oregon. Will you collaborate with me so that together we can create a meaningful change? Thank you.
Okay, you heard that person in the background go, wow, and I ditto to that. I mean, what an impressive young lady. All the finalists, by the way, for Oregon Kid Governor will now become cabinet members who will work alongside the Oregon Kid Governor, Zoya, to advance her platform. Congratulations to all these amazing kiddos. I think this woman, this young lady, this little girl here could be president one day. She's just amazing. Well, hey, the Oregon Department of Education says that 2023 saw the second highest graduation rate ever. And this is for a class of high school students that felt the full force of the COVID-19 pandemic. The overall graduation rate held at 81.3%. That's the same as 2022. Now, Oregon had more than 37,000 graduates last year. Students whose first year of high school sent them home starting in the spring because of COVID. And then most of their sophomore year was the same, remote classes, before transitioning back to in-school learning. Really tumultuous time, right? And this data shows that despite all that, educators and students persevered. In the Hillsborough School District, for example, they graduated 86.3% in 2023, just a tenth of a point less than 2022 and well above the state average. The district also improved with Hispanic Latino graduates, more than a point better than the year before, and for former English learners, a better than 4% improvement year to year. It's been a focus for the district.
I also think just, again, having students back in, working on language, getting kids to talk again, all of those components for our students that are language learners really helped us make some improvements in that area.
For some student groups, the rate was not as good. For American Indian, Alaska Native learners, 68.2% graduated, a little worse percentage than in 2022. 73.1% of Black African American students graduated. That's also down a bit from 2022, so room for improvement. Well, experts say fewer people are pursuing careers as teachers, and sometimes for those who do, it's hard to get their teaching license. But as Thomas Schultz reports, there's another pathway for those hopeful educators.
So how many pieces are there? Remember we just counted? 16, yep. So
ever since Melissa Aranda was in 3rd grade, she wanted to teach.
You have a lot of pieces, or a lot of parts, right?
So she went through an online program and got her master's. Though when she tried to get a teaching license, she failed.
I kind of was defeated at that point.
So instead, she took a job at Fernhill Elementary in the Forest Grove School District as a special education instructional assistant and stayed in that role for a decade. Though recently, that changed.
But your first job is just going to cut out your fraction friend.
Last year, Aranda enrolled in a residency program at Pacific University, which allows people to instead get their teaching license while working in the classroom.
And to me, that's the most authentic experience.
Rather than submit a final portfolio graded by the state, teachers in the residency program have mentors who offer feedback over 11 months.
Our model is a very high one-on-one support.
Kevin Carr is the chair of alternative programs at Pacific University. He says 50 teachers have already gained licensure through the program. And statewide, he says there are 2,100 teachers working on temporary licenses who still need a permanent teaching license.
We have to broaden access to teaching professions to include a broader range of people.
And the 4-year-old program comes at a time when many aren't going into teaching.
There's not a bunch of people banging out the door to be a teacher.
Possibly opening doors for many who always envisioned a life in the classroom.
People say, oh, you're living the dream. I'm literally living my dream.
And one school district that's benefited maybe more than any other from this program, well, that's Salem-Keizer, which is the 2nd biggest district in the state. Well, if you haven't had a chance to visit the Portland Winter Ice Rink, you still have some time. The city is actually extending the outdoor woodsy village to stay open until February 11th. It opened last month on Southwest Nato Parkway under the west end of the Morrison Bridge. That's right along the waterfront. There's also great food to choose from, warm beverages, and a cozy lounge to enjoy. Gosh, I wish I could ice skate. So hey, ice skating might not be your thing if you're like me, but there are still plenty of other fun things to do in the winter time. So on social, I asked you to share your favorite winter activity with a photo. Let's start with Lisa, who shared this great shot of her little one all decked out and ready for fun in the snow. Now, she didn't say what the activity was. I'm assuming maybe skiing, snowboarding, perhaps even tubing. No matter what it is, the kiddo looks super excited for it. Such a cute photo. And here's a wintry scene that's worth a visit any time of year. Alex shared an icy but scenic photo of Multnomah Falls. And okay, typically here in Portland, the winter doesn't mean snow, it means rain, and lots of it. And Dana has the perfect activity for that. Puddle jumping with her grandson. They took this photo in Hillsboro. I gotta say, puddle jumping is one of my favorite things to do any rainy day. And when it comes to being outside during the colder months, Chuck chooses to keep his sights high. He likes to go bird watching. Oh yeah, we've got some great birders who like to watch the good stuff. I love it. But hey, the winter time is also perfect for those indoor comfy activities. Just ask Veronica. She likes to cozy up by crocheting. That's such a cool skill. I love those colors too. Meanwhile, Barbara is busy in the kitchen baking up delicious bread. Oh my goodness, it's making me hungry. It looks amazing, but I gotta say my favorite part of this post is Barb's comment, because winter is for eating bread, and then she says, you work it off in the spring. Exactly, Barb. That's springtime me's problem, not winter me's problem. Looks delicious too. Hey, you can share your photos and stories of good stuff happening in our community by texting that number right there on your screen. It's 503-226-5088. You can also email me at thegoodstuff@kgw.com. Well, many of us are familiar with ice sculptures, but maybe not as familiar with snow sculptures. Unlike their crystal clear cousins, these works blend art with sport, all requiring incredible grit. Now, 3 women from Maine are on their way to a national sculpture competition. Donovan Lynch met up with them at their practice.
On the side of a Nordic ski trail in Waterville, hand tools work away at the snowpack.
This is getting rounder. It's there for a moment and gone, and I love that it's also larger than life.
But these women aren't just sculpting to please, they're training to win.
It becomes like an art that's also competitive, but also challenging.
Serena Sanborn is the captain of the Chickadees, a snow sculpting team made up of her sister Phoebe and their friend Desiree. They're practicing for nationals less than a week away in Wisconsin, where they'll represent Maine as the only all-female squad.
Women have never not been invited, but I think sometimes you have to be explicit in your welcoming.
As such, the Chickadees are choosing to sculpt something at the competition that reflects the breaking of barriers, both on this earth and beyond.
This is a sculpture of Artemis, the moon goddess.
Despite this divine subject, the obstacles confronting the team are uniquely mortal.
You know, if it gets too warm and something falls off or it doesn't quite come out the way you want.
Staring down uncooperative weather or poor sun direction, these hardy Mainers will work away in hopes of securing victory and sending a message.
I think it's brave to be a female artist, and I think it's brave to be a female artist sculpting in below zero temperatures.
This toil, all going to something impermanent, leaving only a trace in those who built it.
This is the stuff that life is made of. Like this is always stuff like this is what you gotta do.
Gosh, the talent, the skill, and the dedication, that is such good stuff. Okay, an important part of local history, nestled in the Mount Hood National Forest, is back open for visitors. After the break, we have a look at the newly renovated Steiner Church. You've probably been amazed by the views of Mount Hood. How could you not? But in this week's Let's Get Out There, we're taking a look at the history around it. The 1937 Steiner Log Church is alive and well thanks to a man who wants to share it with the rest of us. John Goodwin has more.
Immerse yourself in the forest and there's more to find.
46 years to get it to this stage.
Of the trees and among the trees, this is the 1937 Steiner Log Church. Consider it Oregon's newest historical destination on Mount Hood, just a few miles off of Highway 26.
It was built by Henry Steiner and his sons John and Fred.
Mike Gudge bought the church in 1976. It's one of 100 cabins built by Henry Steiner and his sons. It was in danger of being torn down to make way for highway widening. It took a lot to build it and a lot to get it here.
It was an absolute nightmare.
Imagine moving an awkwardly shaped 200,000-pound structure across bridges and down narrow mountain roads. One of the eaves had to be cut to get it between a tree and telephone pole. Mike says the headache to get it here to his property in Welch's was definitely worth it.
It was a magnificent, fascinating building to start with. That's why I was intrigued with it. It was in quite a disrepair. There was quite a bit of rot. And I just wanted to bring it back to what it was.
For more than 4 decades, Gudge restored the church with help from John Steiner and many others, repairing rot, adding electricity and plumbing, while staying true to the church's original roots. Mike Westby handles marketing for the church.
All of this is hand peeled. You'll notice that the steps are half rounds, which is easier than building a riser and a step.
It's iconic. It's quite a masterpiece.
Trademark characteristics of all the Steiner cabins include things like the wagon wheel design over the entrance, offset X railings, and these Christmas tree handle doorknobs.
But you'll notice that when you twist it on the back, it turns another piece of the latch that's made out of wood and a root from a tree.
Gudge considers his work finished and wants to share it with the community. The Steiner Log Church is now open for tours on the first Saturday of every month.
My entire intent all these years was to share the building and the restoration. I'm very, very proud of how this has come out and all the engineering and the thinking behind it and the ingenuity. It's all been spectacular.
In Welch's, I'm John Goodwin. Let's get out there.
Wow, what a marvel. And hey, remember, we want to know your favorite outdoor spots and see your photos too. You can share them by texting us at that familiar number, 503-226-5088. When we come back, frozen gators, how these animals in Texas adapted to a couple of days that were much colder than what they're used to. All right, check this out. The recent cold weather across the country, even forcing alligators to adjust. Gators at a sanctuary in southeast Texas are staying below frozen ponds in a deep state of hibernation, with only their snouts sticking out of the ice in order to breathe. Just last week, it was so cold in Beaumont, Texas, with lows of 18 degrees, that alligators across the area were found frozen underwater while still breathing. Yeah, this is the good stuff. The owners of the sanctuary say that they can stay like this for days at a time. Their heartbeat goes down to, get this, only about 3 beats per minute, and they bundle close together for warmth under the water.
That animal figured out that if I just poke my nose through there, let hibernation take a hold, I'll just go into a trance.
Pretty crazy, right? Nature is amazing. This state is called Burmation. It's a normal behavior for gators, and they come out of it when it gets a little warmer out.